our next system we are going to be looking at is one of my favorite systems to both learn about and teach about. That is going to be the immune system. You may see times or have heard of before the lymphatic system, and the immune system and lymphatic system work very, very closely together. Sometimes you could, if you wanted to, like kind of consider them the same system. But we're going to do things a little bit different today for the immune system than we've done with any other system so far. Before we actually start the lesson, you are going to need to go into the Wednesday folder and open up the Day 6 Immune System assignment on Schoology. What you're going to do is you are going to complete the know and want to know columns. So in the know column, you're going to list things you already know or think you already know about the immune system. And in the want to know, you're going to list some things that you would like to learn about the immune system. You're going to need to pause your lesson video here so that you can actually go and complete those 2 columns. And when you're finished, don't submit that assignment yet. Come back here to finish the lesson so that you can then complete the learned column. So go ahead and pause your video here and we'll pick up when you are done those 2 columns. All right, so hopefully you have those 2 columns filled out like we talked about. And we're going to go through the lesson now so that you can complete the learned column when you are finished. The function of the immune system is mainly to help fight off infection. Different things that can cause infection in the body we call pathogens. Pathogens could be a virus, it could be bacteria, fungus, anything that really could make us sick. It includes, but it's not limited to, I've just listed a few here, your lymph nodes and lymph vessels, your thymus gland, and your bone marrow. So again, those are just a few parts of the immune system. Part of your immune system would also be your white blood cells. There are multiple types of white blood cells in our body, and each does something different. So we have neutrophils. They are going to kind of act like Pac-Man, as are monocytes over here. And they're going to kind of just engulf, they're going to move through the body. If there's a virus, for example, or bacteria, the neutrophil, you can see it's engulfing bacteria in this picture. That is, they're going to kind of, you can consider it like kind of eating the bacteria or the viruses. So they're kind of going to be kind of generalized cells and responses to the immune system's overall response. Eosinophils are associated with allergies. We really get into that more when we do the immune system in anatomy too. Basophils are going to release histamine. You may have heard of antihistamines before to counteract those chemicals being released, and heparin, which thins the blood. And then there are lymphocytes. So the lymphocyte is actually the second most numerous type of white blood cell we have in our body. And 2 main kinds are B cells and T cells. So we have B cells that are called plasma B cells, and they produce antibodies. You might have heard of antibodies before because you may have heard of people getting an antibody test for COVID. Antibodies are produced in response to an infection. So the way that test would work would be if somebody gets an antibody test and they show those COVID antibodies in this test, then that would, and it's a blood test where they would do that. Those antibodies would show there would have been a prior infection and that person's body fought off the virus that causes COVID-19. So that's really the case with anything. Once you have had exposure to, let's say, let me pick something. Let's see. I mean, we can even just use COVID again. So, no, I'm changing that because we don't know enough about that yet to know how long your memory cells last for that. So let's say measles. Most people have gotten a measles vaccine, and that works similarly to your body fighting off a pathogen naturally and creating memory cells. The vaccine in that case for measles, or if somebody was actually exposed to the measles virus and got sick from that, their body would make memory cells so that they can retain information for their immune system on how their body was able to fight it off before and keep them from getting sick from it again in the future. So you would also make memory cells in response to an infection. And there are memory B cells. There are also memory T cells formed in a similar way. For T cells, we have several different kinds. There are helper T cells. They are called helper T cells because they help to identify what the pathogen is, to kind of pass along some information to the other T cells. If there are cells, the person's body cells that are filled with, we'll say a virus in this case, killer T cells are able to inject chemicals into the infected cells and destroy them. Another name for killer T cells is cytotoxic T cells. They're the same thing, just different names. And then suppressor T cells are going to kind of call off the immune response. Once the person's body has fought off the infection and they're getting better, the suppressor T cells will kind of slow down that immune response because it's not needed anymore. The person's getting better. So again, memory cells are going to be formed after every infection so that you can retain a memory of how to fight that off if you're exposed to it again. I'll just take a second and because I mentioned COVID-19, there is a virus that causes COVID-19. It's called SARS-CoV-2. We're not totally sure. When I say we, it's not me, but medical professionals, I should say, aren't sure how long the memory cells against this virus that causes COVID-19 last. So that's part of what they're looking at when they're trying to create a vaccine for that. And that's part of what they would look at when they're trying to create a vaccine for anything. So hopefully that helped you learn a little bit more about the immune system. There is way more to go into, but I don't want to get into too much more detail here since it's just an intro. We are going to watch a short video to wrap up. This video is going to review the lymphatic system, so that'll go along with, and it works very closely with the immune system, which we just finished talking about.
The lymphatic system is a multifunctional body system. Its roles include transportation of lymph and combating infection. The components of the lymphatic system include lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes, and lymphatic organs. Lymphatic vessels form an extensive network of thin-walled vessels that transport lymph around the body, eventually emptying it into the venous system. Lymphatic vessels contain numerous valves and have a beaded appearance, bulging between adjacent valves when filled with lymph. Lymph nodes are small masses of lymphatic tissues situated along the course of the superficial and deep lymphatic vessels. Their function is to filter lymph as it passes through the lymphatic system en route to the venous system. Lymphatic organs are structures that produce lymphocytes and include the spleen and the thymus gland. Lymphocytes are white blood cells which circulate in the bloodstream and lymphatic system and are concentrated in lymph nodes. They are components of the immune system and have a role in combating infection.
All right, so I hope this lesson helped you learn a little bit more, at least, about the immune system than you knew before. Hopefully it kind of piqued your interest. Again, the immune system to me is just so fascinating how it works and can form memory against what our bodies have fought off before. So you are going to, now that you're finished the lesson, need to go back to your assignment in Schoology and finish that last column, the L column, or what you learned from this lesson today. Make sure you submit that when you're done, and then you have an immune system ed puzzle to do as well. If you have questions, as always, please let me know. Have a great day.